I'm pretty sure nearly all of you watching know about Valve, or have at least heard of their work. They've grown to become one of the most influential players in gaming, and had one of the most iconic runs in gaming history. Portal, Half-Life, Counter-Strike, Left 4 Dead, all making them a household name. And although they've since slowed down on releases, the company has kept their spirit alive through their online distribution service, Steam, which has remained the dominant preferred platform for PC gaming due to its pro-consumer ethos, thanks in large part to President Gabe Newell and his unwavering defense of player freedom on PC. From the outside looking in, the company seems to be impenetrable. A solid library, stable platform, massive revenue, and massive support from fans, all while being a private company. Here's why I think Microsoft will try to buy them. It's no secret that Xbox has been struggling the past decade. They've essentially been stuck playing catch up. Their major franchises have fallen in hard times, console sales are low, they've shut down many studios, and are now trying to compensate by focusing on casting their net as wide as humanly possible. Streaming and cloud services, Game Pass, crossplay, LG TVs, even regularly porting their games to PS5. Game Pass has given them a little boost, and does provide some value, but even that hasn't exactly netted them any long-term growth. At best, it's a band-aid over a large wound, which is evident by how they bundled it into Xbox's online services, forcing those on Xbox to pay for it just to access online play, regardless of if they actually want it or not. Not to mention how aggressively they advertise it at every possible opportunity. The implementation of the service greatly shifted the culture among players on Xbox as well, with far fewer people purchasing games outright and expecting it to be free, leading to a ripple effect among developers and publishers, with their sales effectively being undercut, including Xbox's own first-party titles. Instead of investing more in their studios, reviving dormant franchises, or even creating a new IP, they've opted to buy and acquire as much as they possibly can, purchasing ZeniMax Media, the parent company of Bethesda Softworks, for $7.5 billion in 2021, and Activision Blizzard for $69 billion 2 years later. However, despite how much access these acquisitions have given them to their respective major franchises, they still are reluctant to keep them exclusive, likely out of necessity because of Game Pass subscriptions overtaking game sales. I mean, we're at the point now where they're getting major praise for a remaster that they didn't even directly create. So, why does this matter? What precedent does this set going forward? I believe it proves something about Xbox that many of us are fearful of, that no company is off limits to them anymore. There is no amount of money that they're not willing to spend. There is no game company too big for them to buy. Not even Nintendo, apparently. If they think they can, they will try to. And how does Valve fit into this equation exactly? Well, I'm glad you asked. Okay, so here's what I think they're trying to do, based on what I've observed thus far. The big factor I think Microsoft is currently banking on is whoever will take Gaben's place once he's gone from Valve. They likely understand that trying to just buy them now will lead to a big no from the man himself and lead to a lot of rightful backlash from the community. So instead, they're trying to Trojan horse their way in, using their plans to make their next console a portable PC and integrating it with Steam to create a level of plausible deniability, making their acquisition of Valve seem more like a necessary evolution of the brand and not just consolidation of power. The second and more obvious factor is that Windows, which Microsoft already owns, is still the only operating system that has strong game support, meaning that acquiring Valve would basically give them a monopoly and full control over how people play and access their games on PC, since Epic isn't nearly as popular and GOG is really only for older games and indie titles. And considering how Xbox already has Game Pass on PC, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they shoehorned it into Steam either. The third major reason why I think Xbox might be quietly planning for this acquisition is because Sony has already put some of their exclusive titles on PC, and my best guess is they see buying Valve as a way to passively profit off of that, since they haven't been able to compete directly with their contemporaries in any meaningful way. Same thing with Valve's own lineup. Nearly all of their games have gotten high praise and still sell, and, loot crates. Lastly, Valve and Microsoft both being headquartered in Washington State, literally only 20 minutes apart, only makes this possibility even harder to ignore, which I don't find many people talking about. Now, with that out of the way, here's why I think this will be a very bad move for the industry. If Microsoft owned all of Valve, PC gaming would only become more locked down. Think games for Windows Live, but way worse. We could be looking at a major paradigm shift towards a walled garden style approach, even worse to what's on consoles, with heavier DRM since physical media on PC is long gone, always online requirements, which means pirates can't crack games, and the worst of them all, paying for online play. Right now, it seems crazy, but in this scenario, what would be stopping them if they literally owned all of PC gaming? Because currently, there is no true Steam alternative. It's the only of its kind. The fact that this is all it would take for things to drastically change reveals an ugly truth that many are hesitant to face. PC gaming isn't as free as we'd like to think it is. By default, you do not own any game that you purchase on the platform, and so much of the freedom hinges greatly on Valve not being greedy and continuing to maintain their goodwill with the people. Just because they're a private company doesn't mean they're entirely immune to greed, especially given their position in the market. Take away that user-friendly focus and all you're left with is greed. A husk. No more freedom, no more mods, no more flexibility, just a glorified streaming service. And yet another advertisement for Game Pass, filled to the brim with the most boilerplate, risk-averse, cookie-cutter bullshit. However, we aren't too powerless to do anything about it. It isn't too late just yet. Despite all the fear-mongering about retailers taking away physical copies, they are still very much alive and well, and you can easily get one if you walk into any store or even on Amazon. Buy games physically whenever you can. Yes, it takes more effort. Yes, discs can get annoying, but the peace of mind of actually owning what you buy outweighs all of that. Back in February of this year, the PSN servers had mysteriously gone down for a full 24 hours. Nobody knew what was going on, Sony wasn't really communicating, and nobody knew when it would be coming back. And during this outage, something interesting happened. Suddenly, everybody who was all digital was frantically trying to pair their disk drives with their consoles, but they couldn't because PSN is required to authenticate them. And suddenly, everyone started worrying about digital and feeling vulnerable and realizing how fragile it actually is, and complaining about how we don't own anything. Meanwhile, I was just chilling playing Bloodborne and God of War on my PS5, no problem. You know how? You know how I was, it's because I had a disc. And that was PSN. So imagine if that was Steam. And no, they can't revoke your access to a disc-based game. The only examples that people have used of physical games supposedly not meaning you own it were live service games that were always bound to be shut down eventually. Regardless of if you had physical or digital, it would have been shut down. I've yet to see any instance of a single-player game on disc being inaccessible, but if there is one out there, I'd love to hear it. In short, what I'm trying to say is, convenience comes at a cost. You might want to check the price before you're stuck footing the bill.
Gaming.